Greetings, Glitter Gang, and welcome back to Kathryn Scraps Live. My name is Kathryn, and today we are crafting live from the Steampunk Debutante album, which is right here. And this is just one of those old school projects that we're figuring out as we go. But we've been having fun with it so far and coming up with some cute things. Okay, so where we left off, okay, is on this page we need to make some skinny tags to go in. There's like a slit behind this lady in this ad, and then we need to make a tall tag just to go in this pocket. Wait, no. We're not doing that because we're doing an insert phase, right? I think that's what it is. So never mind, we're not going to do that. So where we left off was, I believe this is the last page we did, and I believe it was completely finished. Yes. All right. All right. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we need to design another page to go on the back of this. Now, I know I said we're gonna mirror, so hold on one sec. So this is the page that's got the split pocket, and this is the page that's this page right here. So whatever we do for this center layout, this is the last design that we have to come up with. Then the back half, we're gonna be duplicating the front half. So let's just keep that in mind as we go forth here. Now, I found the notebook that we were originally putting everything in, so I'm gonna just transfer the page 4 really quickly because, or page 4 and page 5. So they're all in one spot. Page 4 is really simple because it's just a pocket. But this way, when I hold it up, it'll all be together. I hope you all had a nice break. I got very briefly sick. Don't know what it was. Could have just been like a kind of strange allergy flare-up, really, because it really didn't last. But my nose was running so bad, and this is an overshare, so I just apologize in advance for the information you're going to hear. But my nose was running so bad that last week when I was in the office clearing my desk, I literally couldn't wipe it fast enough. It was like running out of my face so much, and it was just like pouring onto the desk. And I was like, you know what? I think this is what people want to see on a Thursday afternoon. Unless they're in a horror movie. So yeah, but I bounced back pretty fast, so that was nice. All right, apparently I changed the measurement, but luckily I wrote the correct measurement twice, so I knew which one was corrected. Okay, all right, so now today we are working on page 6. All right, and this is, I think we'll think of this as a double page layout, all right? So one thing I thought of was angled pockets. Okay, here's what we'll do. Okay, we'll do angled pockets. We'll do the bow, the bow tie, where we have the 2 angled pockets that cross in the middle. Okay, we'll do that, but we'll adapt it so that the one that's on the top swings out. Okay, and reveals like something underneath. So let's think about now how we want to do this. So to make the pocket that swings, it's going to have a front and a back and a flap. So we need, well, let's work on the pockets that don't swing. They're a lot easier. So this is 4.5 by 9, so they need to be 5.5 to be pockets, 5.5 wide. That's easy. So we're gonna have 2. Okay, we're gonna have 2 that are 5.5 inches wide, and then lengthwise we need to add 2 inches, not just 1, so it goes from 9 to 11. So there's 2 that are 5.5 by 11, and those 2 then get scored. So we're going to score on the 5-inch edge at 4.5, and we're going to score on the 11-inch edge at 1 inch and 10 inches. Okay, then underneath that, we need something that's going to keep, when this one swings out of the way, that's going to keep things from falling if it's like, if a person is holding it, okay? So we're going to let's put just like a small pocket for this pocket to tuck into. Let's say, I mean, if this is 9 inches, let's do 3 inches, just like make it a third. That'll be different. So we'll need 2. Okay, so 2 that are, so widthwise we add 2 inches. So instead of being 4.5, they're 6.5. So 2 that are 6.5 by, lengthwise, if we're gonna make it 3, we need to add 1 inch, 4 inches, okay? And then we're gonna score on the 6-inch edge at 1 inch and 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches. At 1 inch and 5.5 inches, and then on the 4-inch edge at 3 inches. Okay, so there's going to be a diagonal pocket that's static that tucks into a 3-inch rectangular pocket that's static. Okay, and then there's going to be a fold over that's not static. So that's the one we have to design now. So let's start with the piece that's the underneath piece that attaches. That one has to have an extra flap. So we know its width is 5.5. All right. And we know we need 2 of these because these are for pages 5, 6, and 7. That's why I keep saying we need 2 of all of these things, because we're going to mirror them out. 2 at 5.5 by, obviously we know it's 11, right? Because everything's been 11 so far. Okay, and so this one we're going to score on 5 at 4.5. And then score, actually we need 4 of these because, well, no, the scores are all the same. Okay, score on 5.5 at 4.5, and then on 11 at 1 inch and 9 inches, 10 inches, 1 inch and 10 inches. We don't need 2 of these, we need 4 of these because it's the same dimensions for the one that goes on top of that and makes a pocket. Okay. All right, so that's all the cardstock. So let's just make a note that this is all cardstock. Okay. All right. All right, so I'm just gonna hold that up so that you can take a screenshot, pause, write it down, whatever, however you're keeping your notes for this one. And now we no longer need this notebook, so I'm gonna set it aside. And we're gonna start cutting. So let me get, some cardstock. All right. We have some cardstock there. Okie dokie. Okay, so let's start cutting. So we have a total of 6 pieces that are 5.5 by 11. Ultimately, they're just scored different ways. So we need 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm gonna cut those all together. We'll start there. All right. All right. So here's our 6 5.5 by 11 inch pieces. So now we just need the 2 6.5 by 4, which we can get out of one sheet by doing a pinwheel. So let's do a pinwheel, and then we can cut that pinwheel down. All right. I'm just going to do a 5 by 7 pinwheel because that'll be good enough. So to do this, you need this specific type of Fiskars trimmer, or any brand of trimmer where you can start and stop the blade exactly where you want. You're going to put the corner at 5 inches, and then you're going to cut up from the bottom to 5 inches. Take it out, turn it 90 degrees, do it again. Corner at 5 inches. Cut up to 5 inches. Turn it again, put it at 5 inches, cut up to 5 inches, turn it again, put it at 5 inches, cut all the way up. There you go. All right, now I need to take 2 of these and I need to cut them down to 4 by 6.5, and the other 2 become scraps. Okay. we have the 6.5 by 4. Okay, let's score. I'm going to start with 2 of the 5.5 by 11, and those are going to get scored at 4.5. And 1 and 10. Okay. All right, so now the 2 that are 6.5 by 4, I'm going to score on the 4-inch edge at 3, and then at 1 and at 5. At 1 and 5.5, rather. And 5.5. All right. And then these last 4, we're going to score on 5.5-inch edge at 4.5. And on the 11-inch edge at 1 and 10. And then we'll talk about how we're going to start putting all of this together. Okay. All right, that's all the scoring for now. I'm going to drink a few sips of water, and then we're going to fold along all the score lines and burnish. Everyone be sure to hydrate. I hope you're all doing well. If you're watching the Olympics, I hope you're having a good time. And that the people you're rooting for are doing well. Okay. All right, so layer 1 is we're going to start with the movable pocket. So we need one for the left and one for the right, and we're going to be doing a lot of that one for the left and one for the right as we go. So we'll just want to pay attention to that. All right, let me get a burnishing tool of some sort. And fold along all the score lines and burnish. Welcome, welcome everyone. Hello to Ella and to Candy. I hope you're having good days. Hello to Judy and Gretchen. Good afternoon to both of you. Hi also to Bev and Skinny Cat. I hope you have decent weather wherever you are. Just gonna add tape to, actually just need to add, I need to add tape on the outside on the long flap, but on the short flaps I need to add it on the inside. I just realized. Well, actually, no. No, I'm gonna add it on the outside. I'm actually gonna change, I'm gonna change the measurements. I will explain how this changes the measurements, but it will save you paper. Wait, will it? No, let's do it the way I was originally gonna do it. Okay, just kidding. So short flaps on the underside. Yeah. We'll figure it out, we'll figure it out. Oh, we do have a measurements change, but we'll get there. I just realized I'm not watching Olympics. I don't really have TV, so it's not so easy to watch. And I haven't been interested in the Olympics in a long time. Okay. So we need to remove this piece of tape. I do know some things about the Olympics just from headlines that I've seen here and there. I do know there was a tremendous and I believe pretty disappointing upset in the men's figure skating. Like a lot of people were shocked. But that's about it. Was it Ilya Malin? Is that his name? Malin fell like catastrophically. So Malinin. Okay, that's. So that's the main, oh, and that maybe that the Swedes have accused the Canadians of cheating at curling. That was another thing I saw. At least that was what I gleaned from the headline. So it sounds like they're not all that fun this year, but maybe it could just be the negative headlines are the ones that are breaking through. Okay. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna tuck these around to the back of the one that goes underneath. So the two that we have for that, and then we're gonna cut the sides off, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold along all the score lines and burnish, and then we'll go ahead and cut the sides off. It'll just be easier after we fold it, because we'll cut the score lines off as well. And that way it'll stay smooth. All right, so now I'm gonna cut the sides off of these two, the short sides, but I'm gonna keep the long sides, all right? So these two, I'm gonna adjust their measurements once I'm done cutting them. All right, so let's do this. Okay. So I got some corrective tape so that when we make a bunch of changes, okay, it's not, I can kind of clarify some things a little bit easier. All right, so there's two, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna change this one to 4. And then we're gonna change this one. This one will be the one that we change to reflect that we don't need the sides. And that'll be a lot less confusing. Okay. Go ahead and keep that over here. All right, so this is gonna be 2. And instead of being 5.5 by 11, these are gonna be 5.5 by, I'm gonna say 8 and 7/8. And we're gonna score on the 5-inch edge at 4.5. All right, so There's the new one. Okay. All right. Perfect. So essentially now what we're going to do is these are going to go like so, and then this will close around the back, and that'll be how we do it. Okay. Okay. All right. So first things first, let's go ahead and I'm just going to measure these and see where they ended up. Yeah, these are more like 8 and 15/16, but if they were 8 and 7/8, they'd be even better. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this where it's going to be in the final one so that when I cut the corners, it gets mitered at the same angle. Put it this way. Put it so that the mountain is facing you, because that's the actual way that it's going to be in the book. All right, and it didn't cut all the way through because this isn't the most robust trimmer out there, so that's okay. Scientific American had a thing on Russian pronunciation that I read that was really interesting, that was talking about they have like a different kind of something about, okay, they have these vowels where they have a way of saying how these vowels combine with other words. So what they were using the name Ilya, the name that we would pronounce, most people in English would pronounce Ilya, and what they were saying is that that has an indication in Russian in their alphabet that that you don't pronounce it Ilya. It's a 2-syllable word. It's more like Ilya, and the so that like that the major emphasis is on the other half, right? So so like we pronounce it Ilya in English, but it's Ilya, and that they have like phonetic signs in their alphabet so that you know that, which I thought was really interesting because, you know, one critique people have of English is there's a lot of rules that you only like that you kind of learn, that you can only learn through experience with the language, because there's always exceptions to all the rules, all the grammar rules we have. And another thing we have is we do have words that sound the same and are pronounced the same, but the meaning is changed by where you put the emphasis, and there's no indication in the actual alphabet about where you put the emphasis. So there's no way to know which one, if you're reading it with your eyes, other than the context should be obvious. An example is the words desert and dessert. And I'm not talking about desert and dessert. So those are 3 different words, okay? Desert, okay? Palm trees, sand, desert. All right, dessert, this is the common one that you're familiar with, that people use as an example for why English sucks. There's a cupcake, dessert, okay? But the real one that indicates why English sucks is dessert, which means to run away from the military, okay? To desert your post. Spelled like this, pronounced like this, and there's no indication whatsoever if you're reading which one of these it is other than the context clues. And so what Scientific American was talking about was these two, there are phonetic indications in written Russian that would let you know which of these two it was. So that you would know if you're pronouncing dessert or desert. And so in the case of, again, the name we would pronounce in English as Ilya, there's an indication that the pronunciation stress is on the ya. So it's Ilya. And more almost like, and they said the L is almost silent, so it's more like Ilya, Iya. So I thought that was really interesting. All right, so now this is gonna tuck under, and these are gonna tuck over, okay? And we're gonna make a pocket. I'm gonna cut a little bit more off just to make it a little bit easier to lay flat. So I'm gonna cut it down to be truly 8 7/8. All right. Anyway, the impression that I got from that piece in Scientific American was that English needs more characters or letters in its alphabet or something, because we're stressing everybody out. We're stressing everybody out. All right, before I stick this down, I'm just wondering, yeah, I do want these on the back because I want this to lay flatter, and it will lay flatter if they're on the back. So let me just put tape on this to seal it up, and we'll be all good. All right, so I'm just trimming these. All right, so I'm going to line it up so that I can see both score lines. And then I'm going to lay it as flat as I can and fold it over. And then same thing, lay it as flat as I can and fold it over. All right, and now we have to angle it, okay? So we're gonna do 2 inches in on this side and yeah, an inch and a half. Yeah, I think an inch and a half and an inch. All right, so, all right, I'm gonna cut this. This is for the left side. So on the left side, the wider part needs to be at the bottom. So when I flip it over, I just need to remember that I make my mark at 8. Actually, I'm gonna trim this to be more square. I'll be right back. All right, and now that it's there, so on the bottom, all right, so this is the bottom. I'm just gonna okay, and then on the top, it's an inch, so it's or here, it's an inch from the bottom, so it's 3.5 inches on the other side. So 3.5 inches from the opening. All right, and now we just connect these 2 dots. And you can connect them with a line on your desk. I'm just gonna do a line on my trimmer here. No, it's actually a little too difficult because I'm flapping in the breeze. So go back over here. All right. All right, so now I have that diagonal line, which is the real line that I need to cut. All right, so I'm now going to line this up so that the diagonal line is in a line on my desk. And then I'm gonna line the ruler up with that line and then cut. All right, so here's the first flap, okay? Okay, now, just so I don't forget, okay, I'm gonna mark the center. And the center's actually right here, okay? This is quite close to the edge. All right, and I'm just gonna put it, a magnet there. Let's get some magnets. And then again, I want to check the polarity on the magnets, and I need the main book for that. So what I'm looking for, and I don't think this page has a magnet. Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, so I now know which way is face down All right, and so I can just transfer that over here. Okay, perfect. Perfection. All right, now just gonna clean up my lines here a bit. Since any remaining lines I don't really need. All right. Excellent. So this is going to go in the book like so. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, while we're at it, let's get the next magnet on here. Okay. So this magnet's just going to be here to, in case to keep things from flying out of the pocket. All right. Okay, and then we'll put tape on that. Perfect. Now we're going to stick this in the book because everything else has to go like underneath it. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a glue dot on the back. I'm going to keep this. Something interesting may come from it later. I'm going to put it with the scraps. The glue dot got stuck to the plastic. All right, and then we'll put tape on that. All right, so there we go. There's a start. All right, now we're gonna do the opposite. So we're gonna have one that's, and then that's going to go inside this pocket. So this pocket needs to go next. All right, so we're going to swap just temporarily to the rectangle pocket. All right, so I'm going to fold along all the score lines and burnish. I'm gonna put this tape down on this side, but on the other side, I'm gonna move the score line 1/8 of an inch in. So hold on 1 second. And we'll make this adjustment in the book as well. But I think if this was just 1/8 of an inch in, that would probably be better. All right, so move this score line 1/8 of an inch. Okay. And then I'll tell me where to put my tape. Perfect. Okay. Then down here, okay, my tape goes from there to there. Okay, perfect. All right, let me get this in the book and then we'll update the sheet. Oh, they're doing just fine. Everything's great for them. No worries there. All right. And then I'm going to put this, when I put this down, I'm going to line it up in between the two score lines. Wait, no. It needs to be lined up as best you can with the left. Okay. The reason for that is that's the one that's going inside of it. So I'm just going to line it up next to that score line. All right, and then I can lift these up and peel. So this score line lined up with this score line. All right, now we have this next one. All right, let's make whatever adjustments to the measurements we need to make so far. All right. Which is, do we want to change this 6.5 to 4? I actually don't think it's necessary. I think you can just leave it. I have tons of room, so I would just leave it. Because I don't know if you can see here, I really do have about 1/8 of an inch between the two score lines. So I don't think it's necessary to shrink it down. So we won't make an adjustment. All right. I made an adjustment mentally that was not necessary. All right, so now we're going to talk about how we're going to cut this piece to work. And I think I'm going to make adjustments to this one big time, because it really only needs to be as long as to hit this pocket. It doesn't have to go all the way down inside it on the score line, okay? So we're going to fold along all the score lines and burnish. I set myself a challenge to read 52 books this year. We'll see if I get there. I'm not like actively working at it. So. All right, so there's going to be tape here and tape here, but the tape is just going to be from this score line to 6 inches down. So I'm going to go ahead and literally measure 6 inches down from that score line. Except I think that was, yeah, okay. So now we're gonna cut there, okay? And then we're gonna remove it from here. Let me get bigger scissors. All right. Okay. So now we need to get our angle. And our angle is, you know, essentially the opposite of this one. So if I put it on here like so, okay, I could trace it like that, but I think it's probably going to get a better result if you don't do that. So let's go ahead and just mark it out. So I'm going to mark 1.5 inches in from this edge. This edge, yeah. Yeah, it's this edge. That's it. That's it. And then over here, it's 1 inch. But if anyone's read any good books this year, let us all know in the comments. And then I'm just going to cut this. All right. And then I'm going to cut the tip off completely. Okay. So now you can see there's the corner. I have not read Beautiful and Ugly by Alice Feeney. This now can go down inside, okay? Well, I don't like it. At all. Okay. I think we have to make it corner to corner. I think that's the answer. I think that's the answer. So we're gonna have to change where we put magnets and things like that. All right. think okay. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're going to fix this corner and then kind of go through from there. Okay, so we're going to try, once we finally get all the magnets removed, to recut the corner. Okay. I'm gonna just try and cut this. And for at least this bottom bit, Kitty, yes, everyone hears you and thinks your life is very hard. Okay, so we've now got that cut. All right, so we've saved. It was just feeling a little claustrophobic, okay? A little claustrophobic. All right, so we've cut this. I'm gonna throw out this ruler because it's just shedding plastic at this point. Let me get myself, okay. I'm gonna order another one right now really quickly. Creative Grids, 3.5 by 12.5. Add to cart. Actually, they have a 4.5 inch by 12.5 inch one. I'm going to change to that one. All right. Okay. So now I've got this piece done. I don't know if you can see, there's this shiny edge that's like pieces of the plastic like stuck and embedded in the green. At some point I nicked it, and ever since I nicked it, the ruler's just been like digging little grooves into it over time. So I just need to accept its death and move on. Kitty, hello, how are you? How can we be of service for/to you? What can we do for you? Huh? What can we do? You want to come over? Say hi to your friends? You do? Okay. Well, well, well. Say hi, everybody. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, kitty, yeah. Sitting down, perfect. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Okay. All right. So, kitty, I think you're going to have to be put out into the hallway, unfortunately. Yeah, exactly. You're going to have to go. You're going to have to go. I hate to be the one to bring you this news, but that's definitely the situation. Unless you choose to leave on your own, or at least to get off my desk. No? Okay. I don't know what to do about Kitty, because I thought she would enjoy being an only cat a lot more than she has. But yeah, she's been very needy, very much like needing constant attention. And then a new thing she's doing is when she's not getting the attention she wants, she's just been screaming and screaming and screaming at the top of her lungs. And I know part of it is she's just furious about how her diet is going, because she's starving all the time. Because if you don't know this about cats, is that cats' metabolisms are so fast that they're starving all the time. They're hungry all the time. So even when they've had enough calories for the day, they still don't feel full. And that's because their metabolisms are so fast that in the wild, it requires a tremendous amount of energy and time to get plenty of calories. Oh yeah, she wants to settle in. She's gonna have to go in the hallway. Hey, kitty. Yeah. Come on. Come on into the, come on. Here, get on the chair. Get on the chair. Hop down onto the chair. I'm just gonna pick you up. There you go. Meh. Okay. All right, so now that that's on there, this is on there, but it's also got to get cut down and go from corner to corner. But I think, and then after we cut it from corner to corner, we're going to need to cut an inch down. So let's do this, or 1/8 of an inch down. So I'm going to put the two corners on the same line on my mat. And I had to turn the air conditioning on if you hear a noise. That's what that is. And then so we'll start there. All right. Then, all right, we need to cut 1/8 of an inch off of this. So let's try and figure out the easiest way to do that. All right, and then once I've got it marked with the pencil, it'll be easier to cut it. So basically my struggle with Kitty at the moment is that, you know, she's upset about a couple different things. And I could solve the boredom problem with a second cat, but my plan had been to not look around to adopt another cat until she'd lost 2 pounds. Because once I have a second cat, I will not have the same control over her diet that I do now that she's the only cat. But she's stressing me out because she's miserable and screaming all the time. So that's where we are. All right. So all right, now I think what I'm going to do is glue this onto here to reinforce the corner and to create the pocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line it up. I'm just going to draw a line where this ends. And then I'm going to cover that area with glue and then stick this down. You won't have to do all this because yours will be correct from the beginning. All right, and then I can just trim all right, and then I can just cut that back. All right, so now this would normally tuck into this, right? However, we're gonna put it under here and we're gonna have it tuck into another pocket, but one that follows. How do I want to do it? Do I want to have it plug it into a pocket? So it's going to look like this. I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna stick this down and then we're gonna have to, well, I'm gonna stick this down, but we'll put it in another pocket. The only question is, how do I want to do this pocket? I think I'm going to do a 3-inch pocket like before, but okay. So like this, okay? But we'll cut off this edge and leave it open, and then we'll cut it to have the same angle on it so that it'll be hidden. So it'll be open towards the center, but closed on the bottom, essentially, is what we're doing. Okay, all right. Okay. So I need a piece of cardstock that's 5.5 by 4. Okay. So on the 5.5-inch edge, we're gonna score at 4.5. And on the 4-inch edge, we're gonna score at 3, except just want the score line at the bottom so the corner is on the correct side. All right. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to take this up and cut. All right. Okay, so then that will go here, and that will close over that. Lined up. We need to lose a little bit off this edge, I think. No, I think it's okay. And then this is going to go into here once again. So this part that I just glued on I don't need, so I'm just going to cut it off. All right. Yeah. There. Okay. All right, perfect. Okay. All right, so let's start putting it together. And then once it's all together, we'll adjust the measurements another time, and one more time. All right, okay. There it is. Where is the delaminator? All right, so I need those two pieces. Okay. And this is for the other side, so that's gonna be far less chaotic. All right, let's get some tape going here. Sometimes things come together easy and your first instinct and plan is correct. And sometimes that is not how it happens. So but that is okay. Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna trim. All right. Okay, so got that done. Just trying to get this tape in the trash instead of stuck to my fingers. Okay. Cutting the corners. All right. Okay, so we're going to start with this one. I'm going to take 1/8 off the edge. Well, wait, we've already been over this. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Okay, so that's down, and then now we can put that down. Yeah, the lining, because you have to cut it, you have no other choice. It's on red line tape, is frustrating. All right, now once that's down, we can just go ahead and stick this in. So I'm just going to do a couple things. One is I'm going to cut more off the tip, and then I'm going to cut a little bit more off this edge as well. Okay. Having to constantly pick up the scissors when dealing with the red line tape is bleh. All right. This one I'm taking off the tape from both sides of the corner. And we're just going to go down in and then line up. All right, there we go. Whew. All right, so when that's closed, okay, it's gonna look like the cross, and then when you open it, you can tuck stuff in here and then up under there. All right, so now we just need to think about where we want the magnets to be. And I think under here, kind of in this general area, is where they should be. So I'm just gonna okay. All right, so I'm just gonna put this a little too. Okay. Okay. All right, once we've got that on there, then we can take a second one, mark where it goes. I'm going to put one on top of that. All right. Okay, all right, now we've got all of them on there. I'm just gonna cover them with tape and then we'll do a recording break. And then we'll adjust the measurements and then we'll do a recording break. And then the next recording will be the opposite side, hopefully going together much more quickly and easily. All right, good enough. All right. I think what we'll do is make some kind of spinny closure thing as well to help keep that corner down as part of our construction. So we'll keep that in mind. All right, so let's talk about how this changes the measurements. And let's get those adjusted. And then, so we only need 2 that are 5.5 by 11. So, all right. All right. We need 2 that are 5.5 by 4. Two that are 5.5 by 8 7/8. No. What is? Oh no, 5.5 by 8 7/8. No, they're 9 7/8. So we're gonna actually just say that they're 5.5 by 10. Five and a half by 10. And you score on 5 at 4.5 and on 10 at 9. Okay. All right. That's the final iteration of this. Okay. All right. So now that we have that, I'm going to do recording break and then we are going to do the other side and hopefully it'll be less painful. Hopefully it'll be less excruciating. All right, I'll be right back. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the, well, for those of you who are watching live, just hang tight. Nothing's going to change for you. For those of you who are watching in the archives, just go ahead and click to the next video and see it come together with far less drama, hopefully, fingers crossed. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Greetings, Glitter Gang, and welcome back to Kathryn Scraps Live. My name is Kathryn, and today we are crafting live in the Steampunk Debutante album. It is going so-so. It's going so-so. But we have finished part 1, which was developing the final form of this page design. As you can see, we've done a modified bow tie. And now we're just going to be figuring out what to do with that bow tie. So let me go ahead and sort by so what we're going to do is we're going to put to the test whether or not my new measurements are correct. So that's what we're about to find out. All right. Okay. So we still are going to add a magnetic or a tag of some kind, and it may be magnetic. I may put a piece of metal on so that it kind of finds these magnets and holds down here in this corner. But whatever it is, it's going to be a tag that we attach to this back paper. Perhaps, well, no, if we do that, then that'll limit what we can and cannot put in. So I think actually instead what we're going to do is we're going to add one more magnet. And that'll keep it nice and flat. All right. All right. And there we go. All right, perfect. I'll just leave this out because we're going to need to do a little bit more magnet work once we get everything together. Okay. Okay, so let's make whatever adjustments we need to make. So we've got these two pieces. So this one is this one, and this one is currently this one. So this one's not going to work. So this is now scrap. So I'm just going to cut this strip off. Well, I'll just set it. It can just be scrap as it is. All right, so we've got this one and this one, and we need to, we can cut this one down to be this one. So we need the one that's 5.5 by 11, scored on the 5 and whatever. So this is for the moving pocket on the front. This one becomes 2 by 5.5 by 4, so we're gonna have to cut this down. All right, so it's now cut down to be the correct width, which is 5.5. And then it's scored at, so it's 5.5 now, scored at 4.5, and then 4 scored at 3. Okay, with the score in the bottom right corner, because it's going in the bottom right corner. And then this one is the one on top. This one is more or less correct. We're gonna lose, you know, this top part, but that's fine. So we're going to cut from here to here on this one. And just in the interest of time, I'm just going to put it in my rototrim. Yeah. Okay. So I've now done that. And so now the question is we need to create a back for this. And so what I can do is I can cut this strip off of the piece I just cut and stick it back here to be the back. So we're hopefully not going to have to cut any new paper. All right, so now that I've cut that off, I can go ahead. Oh, I don't have a bottom. That's the only thing. Well, that's okay. That's okay. you know what? I have quite a few, like, I'll just make a little, here we go. Here, I'll just score this in half and we'll use this. All right, so. All right. And this piece is 7.5 inches. So I'm going to cut it at 3 3/4. Just going to mark 3 3/4. And I'm going to put half of it on this edge, and then I'm going to put the other half on this edge so that both the corners are nice and solid, and if there's a gap, it's just right there in that middle bit. That way I just don't have to cut any new paper, and I can just proceed with this. So let's go ahead and just stick these down. Now you're not going to have to piece everything together because your pieces should all be correct. Although who knows at this point? Now, there was some discussion about the movie Cleopatra starring Elizabeth Taylor in the chat because Melanie is reading a book about it. And I did recently learn a fact about Cleopatra, the actual historical person, and it was that she was the first person in her family to speak Egyptian. To learn Egyptian, to learn to read, write, and speak Egyptian. All right, so got that little corner bit. All right, so we know that the front corner is going to be nice and stable, and then we'll get this one. This one I just need to cut on an angle. Yeah. Yep. Yep, but that's going to be correct. Now, so Cleopatra was part of the Ptolemy family, and they were a Greek dynasty that ruled Egypt for a long time, and they had a very troubling family tree. They mostly married within the family. So what I'm going to do is just put this far enough up that there's no overlap in the corner. Yeah, yeah. Like if you've heard of the Habsburgs and their problems, that it's a lot. It was like a lot of that similar stuff. All right. Oops, I put it on backwards though. But yeah, the Ptolemies were, I believe, a lot of intermarrying for royal families of the time. I think they were kind of like unique-ish. All right. Okay, so we've now got this all closed up. So I'm just gonna trim it in the big trimmer, and then I'll be right back to attach it. All right, so now you can just go ahead and stick this down. All right, so something has happened here. Okay. There we go. Oh no, what's going on? All right. Oh, for God's sake. What is your problem? This is way, this is crazy. What, it's like a 1/4 inch too big. Is it crooked? What is the problem? Stop touching it. Okay. gonna fix this a couple different ways. All right, so what's going to go on the back of this is going to tell me how much repair I need to do. So what's going to go on the back of this is going to be this piece. So we are going to have to flatten the back. So I'm just going to cut a piece that's like 4 1/4 by there. All right, so this is that piece that I had extra, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it. All right. Okay, so with this, we're gonna have to use liquid glue. So because otherwise, you know, liquid glue dries, tape never does, so we need this to dry. All right, so the most important thing is that we line up this corner. All right, good enough. And again, this is just a repair piece. You don't have to do anything with this. All right. All right. So this corner is a little messed up. However, this is going to be put on top of it, and so ultimately you're not really going to see it. Okay. So the repair work I've done is just to kind of reinforce that corner so everything's chill. Okay. Once we get this pocket in, then we can... All right. All right, so I'm now just going to put that pocket in and trace the edge like I did last time. And cut it. All right. So can go ahead and stick that down right there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then peel this. Okay. And then let's work on the magnets. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close this. All right, so that's got us that magnet. I'm going to put tape on it. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and do the back there. And then I can now press it down. Okay, it's in there. I'm just going to use a bigger piece of tape on that one just because it's inside a pocket. Okay, then go ahead and add a magnet on top of this. Close it, and then we'll go ahead and we'll tape it. And then one more, last one. I'm going to go ahead and mark the circle. And get my last little bit of tape here. And stick it down. And stick it down. And stick it down. All right. So now we've got all the magnets. They're good to go. Perfect. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to make sure I have additional magnets and that these aren't all of my magnets of this size, because if they are, I'm going to have to order more. Okay, they're not. Good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and So, okay, done that. So we're good for magnets. All right. So now we just need to do that last pocket piece. All right. So it's going to come from this, and we're just going to do that. So I'm going to cut from that score line to this one, and I'm just going to do it, like I said, over here in the main big trimmer. All right. And then I'm going to cut the tip off so that it'll fit more easily down into the pocket. All right, and that leaves me with something that looks like this. Go ahead and fold along all the score lines and burnish. Okay, and then 6 inches down, yeah, is where we'll cut the thing. And I'm actually going to cut it at 5 3/4 because 5 3/4 we'll know it's definitely not too tall. All right. And then we'll go ahead and just cut the score line off. All right, and then we can trim these bits. All right. And stick this down. All right, perfect. Now we got to cut the corner. All right. And then we can stick the whole thing down, and then I'll go over everything that we've kind of learned, I guess, in these measurements, and kind of walk you through and point at the various things as I'm bringing them up so that it'll be like really super clear and easy to follow. This one's not so bad because it's just going in the bottom and then lining up with the top. Alrighty. And then once we've got this one in, like I said, I'll go over everything one more time with these measurements and everything, just so it's crystal clear so you can follow along. And then just because there is going to be a lot of matting on this one, I'm actually going to end today's class after that, and we'll start next class with the matting. And that way it's not too, because I just don't trust myself today, given how many mistakes have already been made, to get all these angles and everything right. And I think it's just gonna be smarter to start fresh another time. All right. Okay, so now that's in. All right, so there it is. So perfect. We've got this beautiful diamond. Once it's all decorated, it's going to look really cool. But for now, let's go over the whole thing one more time to make sure that we've got everything correct. All right, so 2 pieces that are 5.5 by 11 scored on the 5.5 inch edge at 4.5 and scored on the 11-inch edge at 1 inch and 10 inches. That's these pockets. And then the triangle for the back will come from once you've cut it off, once you've cut the top off, you know, and you've made your diagonal, you can use the remnant to enclose the pocket. So this front part is the part that where the 2 score lines intersect, and this back part is the top part you cut off. Okay. Then the 2 that are 5.5 by 4, that's these. Okay. So the 2 that are 5.5 by 11 are these, and the 2 that are 5.5 by 4 are these. Then you have the 2 that are 5.5 by 10. Okay. That's these back here. These back here, they get scored on the 5.5 inch edge at 4.5, and they get scored on the 10-inch edge at 9. And these that are 5.5 by 4 get scored on the 5.5 inch edge at, oops, I gotta change these measurements as well before we hold it up to the camera. Okay, so these get scored on the 5.5 inch edge at 4.5. Okay, and then they get scored on the 4-inch edge at 3. That's correct. Okay, so that's all the pieces that you need, except you need 2 strips to attach these tops. The top part that you cut off to attach it to the back, you need 2 strips. So you're gonna need 2 that are 2 inches by 9 inches. Not really 9. What is it? 6, right? Yeah. 5 3/4 actually is what I said. 5 3/4. And those 2 score on the 2-inch side at 1 inch down the middle. Okay. All right. So this is now correct. And that's going to attach the 2 triangles together. All right. So this is now correct. It has all the pieces that you need to make something that looks like this when it's all the way open, and something that looks like this when it's all the way closed. All right. That's page 6. And it's technically, it's page 1 and 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6 and 7. It's technically 6 and 7. So let me go ahead and see, it's 6 and 7. Okay. All right, here it is. So you can, like I said, you can screenshot this, you can pause and write it in your notebook, however you're keeping track of all of this. These are now all correct, finally. Finally all correct. All right, so when we come back next time, we will start with all of the matting of all the different diamonds and triangles and all of that for this page. And that's where we'll pick up the next time we have class, which will hopefully be on the 16th. So thank you so much to everyone who watched me, for hanging in through many changes with this one, but we're in a great place. I think it's going to be, oh, excuse me. I think it's going to be really fun to decorate. We're going to have a really good time. next time we work on it. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful evening and a fantastic weekend and a fabulous week ahead. And I will see you next time here for more fun with the Steampunk Debutante album. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.